There's a man in Ohio who retired at 62, believing he had saved enough. He hadn't. By 67, his money was gone. Not because of some catastrophic market crash, not because he gambled it away, but because he violated a rule so simple, most people don't even know it exists. And here's the uncomfortable part. You're probably violating it right now. C. The financial system runs on rules. Not the kind they teach you in school, not the motivational nonsense you see on Instagram, but actual, structural, mathematical rules that determine whether you build wealth or slowly bleed it away without even noticing. Some of these rules are hidden in plain sight. Others are deliberately obscured, because the system profits when you don't understand them. Today, we're walking through 12 of them. Not tips, not hacks, rules. The kind that separate the people who retire comfortably from the people who work until they physically can't anymore. And by the end of this, you'll understand why that man in Ohio never stood a chance. Asterisk, Rule 1, the 4% crack. Let's start with the rule that destroyed him. It's called the 4% rule, and it's supposed to be the blueprint for retirement. Here's how it works. You retire with, let's say, $1 million. According to the rule, you can withdraw 4% of that total every year. Adjusted for inflation, and your money should last 30 years. 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. Sounds reasonable. Safe, even. And for decades, financial advisors treated this like gospel. Calculators were built around it. Retirement plans were designed with it baked into the foundation. But there's a problem. The 4% rule was created in 1994 by a financial planner named William Bengen. He ran the numbers using historical market data, going back to 1926, and he found that if you withdrew 4% annually, your portfolio would survive every 30-year period in modern history, every single one. Except, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. The rule assumed a specific blend of stocks and bonds. It assumed consistent market growth. It assumed you'd retire into an economy that looked more or less like the 20th century. But what if you retire during a recession? What if inflation spikes? What if the first 5 years of your retirement coincide with a market downturn? That's called sequence of returns risk. And it's the silent killer of retirement plans, because if your portfolio drops 20% in year 1 and you still withdraw 4%, you're not just losing 20%. You're withdrawing from a smaller base, which means you're selling assets at a loss, which means your portfolio never recovers the way it should. The math starts to cannibalize itself. That man in Ohio, he retired in 2007, right before the financial crisis. His 4% withdrawals turned into a death spiral, and by the time the market recovered, his portfolio was too small to survive. He followed the rule perfectly, and it didn't matter. So here's the real rule. 4% isn't a guarantee, it's a historical average, in a world that no longer resembles the one that created it. And if you're planning your entire retirement around it, you're gambling with your future. Rule 2. The inflation ghost. Let's talk about something nobody sees coming. Inflation. Not the kind that makes groceries slightly more expensive. The kind that quietly robs you, over decades, without you ever noticing it left. Here's a thought experiment. In 1990, a new car cost around $12,000. A gallon of gas was $1.16. A dozen eggs, about $1. Today, that same car, $48,000. Gas, $3.50. Eggs, $4.50. Everything costs more. But your savings account, the one earning 0.5% interest, hasn't kept pace. Let me show you the math. If you put $10,000 into a savings account in 1990, earning the average interest rate of around 4%, you'd have about $32,000 today. Sounds good. You tripled your money. Except, inflation over that same period averaged about 2.6% per year, which means the purchasing power of that $32,000 is really only worth about $15,090. You didn't triple your money. You made 50%, and that's if you were getting 4% interest, which almost nobody is anymore. Most savings accounts today offer 0.01%, effectively zero, which means every year you leave money in cash, you're losing 2 to 3% of its value to inflation. It's a slow bleed, and the system is designed this way. Because inflation benefits debtors, it benefits governments with massive debt loads. It benefits banks that lend money, but it punishes savers. The longer you hold cash, the poorer you become. So here's the rule. Cash is not safety. It's slow-motion loss. And if you're keeping more than 6 months of expenses in a savings account, you're not being cautious, you're being robbed. Rule 3. The tax trap nobody mentions. Here's a question nobody asks. Why do they call it a tax refund? Refund implies you're getting your money back. Like the government accidentally took too much, and now they're correcting the error. But that's not what's happening. When you get a tax refund, you're not getting a gift. You're getting an interest-free loan that you gave to the government, returned to you 12 months later. Let me explain. Every paycheck, taxes are withheld. Social Security, Medicare, federal income tax, state tax, if you're unlucky. And most people, especially W-2 employees, have more withheld than they actually owe. Why? Because the system is designed to over-withhold, to make sure the government gets paid first and you get the leftover. Then, in April, you file your return. And if you overpaid, they give it back. But here's the catch. That money you overpaid, the government held it for a year. They didn't pay you interest. They didn't compensate you for lost opportunity. They just kept it. And meanwhile, you could have invested it, paid down debt, built an emergency fund. Let's say you get a $3,000 refund every year. Feels great, right? Like a bonus. Except that's $250 a month that was taken from your paycheck. Money you could have been using all year long if you invested that $250 monthly into an S&P 500 index fund, earning an average 10% annually. Over 30 years, you'd have over $500,000. But instead, you loaned it to the government for free. And people celebrate this. They treat their tax refund like a windfall, like they beat the system. But they didn't. The system beat them. So here's the rule. A tax refund is not a win. It's a failure of planning. And if you're getting one, you need to adjust your withholdings immediately. Credit cards are a miracle of modern engineering, not because they're useful, but because they've convinced an entire generation that spending money you don't have is normal. Let me show you how the trap works. You have a credit card with a $5,000 balance. The interest rate is 18%. You're making the minimum payment, which is usually about 2% of the balance. So your first payment? $100. Sounds manageable, but here's the math. 18% annual interest divided by 12 months is 1.5% per month. On a $5,000 balance, that's $75 in interest, which means of that $100 payment, only $25 goes toward your actual debt. 75% of your payment disappears into interest, and as your balance drops, so does your minimum payment, which means you're paying even less toward the principal each month. At this rate, it'll take you over 20 years to pay off that $5,000 balance, and you'll have paid over $8,000 in interest. You'll pay nearly double for money you already spent. But wait, it gets worse, because most people don't stop using the card. They pay the minimum and then charge another $200 for groceries, another $50 for gas, another $120 for dinner, and the balance never shrinks, it just hovers. This is called revolving debt, and it's the most profitable product in the financial industry. Banks don't make money when you pay off your balance. They make money when you carry one, and the longer you carry it, the more they profit. So here's the rule. If you're paying the minimum, you're not managing debt. You're feeding it. And the only way out is to stop using the card entirely and pay more than the minimum every single month. Anything less is financial quicksand. Rule 5. The compound interest perest. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said that doesn't matter, because it's true. Compound interest is the reason some people retire millionaires and others work until they're 75. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Compound interest works both ways. Let me show you what I mean. If you invest $100 a month, starting at age 25, into an index fund earning 10% annually, by age 65, you have about $637,000. Not bad. But if you wait until 35 to start, same $100 a month, same 10% return, you'll have about $226,000. You lost $400,000 by waiting 10 years. Not because you invested less, you actually invested almost the same amount, but because you lost a decade of compounding. The growth on your growth, on your growth. That's the magic. But here's the paradox. Most people understand compound interest in theory. They nod along when someone explains it. But they don't feel the urgency because 10% growth doesn't sound exciting. Saving $100 a month doesn't feel heroic. It feels slow. And in a world of crypto millionaires and meme stocks, slow feels like losing. So they wait. They tell themselves they'll start next year, when they get the raise, when the bonus hits, when things settle down. And every year they wait costs them exponentially more. But here's the flip side. Compound interest also works on debt. That credit card balance from earlier, the one with 18% interest, if you don't pay it down, it compounds too. And 18% compounded monthly is devastating. So here's the rule. Compound interest is a weapon, and the only question is whether you're using it or it's using you. Every month you delay investing, every month you carry high-interest debt, you're choosing the wrong side of the exponential curve. And time is the one thing you can't get back. Rule 6, the lifestyle creep trap. There's a phenomenon in behavioral economics called the hedonic treadmill. Fancy term, simple concept. No matter how much money you make, you adapt. And once you adapt, you need more to feel the same level of satisfaction. This is lifestyle creep, and it's the reason people making $200,000 a year feel just as broke as people making $50,000. Here's how it happens. You get a raise, $5,000 more a year, feels great. So you upgrade. Nicer apartment, better car, subscriptions you don't really need but can now afford. And within 6 months, that $5,000 raise is gone, absorbed into your new baseline. You're not saving more, you're just spending more. And the trap is that this feels normal. Because everyone around you is doing the same thing. Society rewards visible success, the nice car, the designer clothes, the vacation photos. Nobody sees your retirement account, but everyone sees your watch. And so you optimize for the wrong thing. Let me give you a real example. A study from the Federal Reserve found that 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. 40%. And that's not just low-income earners. It includes people making 6 figures. Because income doesn't determine financial stability. Spending does. You can make $30,000 a year and be financially secure if you live on 25. You can make $300,000 a year and be on the edge of collapse if you spend $310,000. So here's the rule. Wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. And every time you inflate your lifestyle to match your income, you reset the game to zero. The people who build real wealth are the ones who get the raise and pretend they didn't. Rule 7, the emergency fund illstance. Everyone tells you to have an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a savings account. Untouchable. Safe. It's good advice. But here's what they don't tell you. Most people have no idea what an emergency actually is. A true emergency is a job loss, a medical crisis, a car accident that totals your vehicle. It's not a vacation. It's not a new phone. It's not a sale at your favorite store. But the line gets blurred because once you have money sitting in an account, it's tempting to use it. And the more you dip into it for non-emergencies, the less protected you are when a real one hits. Here's the other problem. Emergency funds are almost always kept in savings accounts, which, as we established earlier, lose value to inflation. So you're being responsible. You're building a safety net. But that net is quietly disintegrating. And there's a deeper issue. The emergency fund advice assumes you're living paycheck to paycheck, that your income is unstable, that you're one mistake away from catastrophe. And for a lot of people, that's true. But if you're already financially stable, if you have low expenses and high income, an emergency fund might not be your best move, because cash sitting idle is opportunity cost. If you have $50,000 in a savings account earning 0.5% and the market is averaging 10%, you're losing 9.5% annually. That's $4,750 a year, just evaporating. So here's the rule. An emergency fund is essential until it's not. Once you're financially stable, once your income is secure and your expenses are low, that cash should be working for you. Keep 3 months of expenses liquid. Invest the rest, because safety is not the same as stagnation. Rule 8. Owning a home is the American dream. Equity, stability, pride. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For most people, buying a home is not an investment, it's a lifestyle choice. Let me explain. When you buy a home, you're not just paying the purchase price. You're paying interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, HOA fees if you're unlucky. And all of that is money you never get back. Let's say you buy a $300,000 house. You put down 20%, $60,000. You take out a $240,000 mortgage at 7% interest over 30 years. Your monthly payment is about $1,600. But here's the kicker. Over 30 years, you'll pay $574,000. That's nearly double the original loan amount, and that's just the mortgage. Add in property taxes, let's say $3,000 a year. Insurance, $1,500 a year. Maintenance, 1% of the home's value annually. Over 30 years, you're looking at another $270,000. So your $300,000 house actually cost you over $800,000. Now, maybe the house appreciates. Maybe it's worth $500,000 when you sell. But after realtor fees, closing costs, and capital gains taxes, you're netting $450,000. You spent $800,000 to make $450,000. That's not an investment, that's a loss. But wait, what if you rented instead and invested that down payment, plus the difference between your rent and what you would have paid in mortgage and maintenance? Let's say you rent for $1,500 a month, and you invest the $60,000 down payment plus $500 a month into an index fund earning 10%. Over 30 years, you'd have over $1.2 million. And you didn't have to mow a lawn. Now, I'm not saying never buy a home. If you want stability, if you want to customize your space, if you plan to stay in one place for decades, it can make sense. But don't lie to yourself. You're not buying it because it's a smart financial move. You're buying it because you want to. And that's fine. Just don't call it an investment. Asterisk. Rule 9. The insurance gamble assurance is supposed to protect you. But here's the secret. Insurance companies are betting you won't need it. That's how they make money. They collect premiums from millions of people and pay out claims to a small percentage. The rest is profit. And that's not a criticism. That's just how the math works. But here's the problem. Most people are overinsured on things that don't matter and underinsured on things that do. Let me give you an example. Extended warranties. When you buy a laptop or a phone, they offer you an extended warranty. Covers repairs, covers accidents. Sounds great. Except the warranty costs $200, and the average repair, if it even happens, is $150. You're paying more for coverage you probably won't use. And even if you do use it, the insurance company already priced that in. They've done the math. They know most people won't file a claim, and the ones who do are still profitable overall. So you're not protecting yourself. You're subsidizing their profit margin. But here's the flip side. Most people don't have enough life insurance, or disability insurance, or umbrella liability coverage, the things that actually protect you from catastrophic loss. Why? Because those feel abstract. You're insuring against something that might never happen, and it's expensive. But here's the thing. Insurance should cover disasters, not inconveniences. You don't need insurance for a cracked phone screen. You need insurance for the car accident that paralyzes you, for the cancer diagnosis that stops you from working, for the lawsuit that could drain your savings. So here's the rule. Insure the catastrophes. Self-insure the small stuff. If you can afford to replace it, don't insure it. If losing it would ruin you, insure it heavily. And everything else is just a waste. Rule 10. The retirement account trap. Retirement accounts are the cornerstone of American financial planning. 401(k)s, IRAs, Roth IRAs, tax advantages, employer matches, compound growth. It all sounds perfect, but there's a trap nobody talks about. You can't touch the money. At least, not without penalties. And that creates a problem, because life doesn't wait until you're 59 and a half. Let's say you're 35. You've been diligently contributing to your 401k for 10 years. You got $100,000 saved. Then you lose your job, or you get sick, or you need to start a business. That $100,000 locked. If you withdraw it, you pay income tax on the full amount, plus a 10% penalty, so your $100,000 becomes $70,000 after taxes and penalties. You just lost 30% of your money because you needed it too soon. And this is intentional. The system wants your money locked up because the longer it stays invested, the more the market grows, the more tax revenue the government collects later. But your liquidity, your flexibility, your ability to respond to life is sacrificed. Now, I'm not saying don't use retirement accounts. The tax advantages are real. Employer matches are free money. But here's what most people get wrong. They put all their savings into retirement accounts. Every dollar. Every year. And then they have nothing liquid, nothing accessible, nothing for the life that happens between now and 65. So here's the rule. Retirement accounts are part of the plan, not the whole plan. Max out your employer match. Contribute enough to get the tax benefits. But don't lock up everything. Keep some money liquid, invested, but accessible. Because the best financial plan in the world is useless if you can't survive the next 5 years. Rule 11. Here's a question. Would you rather make $100,000 a year or 50? Obvious answer, right? Except it's not, because income is not the same as wealth, and high income often comes with high costs. Let me explain. If you make $100,000 a year, you're probably in a 22 to 24% federal tax bracket. Add state taxes, add Social Security and Medicare, you're taking home maybe $70,000. Now, because you make 6 figures, you probably live in an expensive city, because that's where high-paying jobs are. So your rent is $3,000 a month, your car payment is $600. Your student loans are another $500. Add in food, insurance, utilities, subscriptions, and suddenly you're spending $60,000 a year. You got $10,000 left over. Now compare that to someone making $50,000 a year, living in a low-cost area. Rent is $1,000 a month, no car payment, minimal debt. They're spending $30,000 a year. They've got $10,000 left over too. Same savings rate, but one person is grinding in a high-stress job, long hours, expensive city, constant pressure. The other is not. And here's the kicker. The person making $50,000 has more control over their time, more flexibility, more freedom, because their cost of living is lower. They're not trapped by their expenses. So here's the rule. High income is meaningless if your expenses rise to match. The goal is not to make more money. It's to keep more money. And sometimes the best way to do that is to earn less and spend even less. Rule 12, the final rule nobody follows. Here's the last one, and it's the hardest because it requires you to do something the entire system is designed to prevent. Think for yourself. Every rule I just explained is based on math, on logic, on decades of data, but none of it matters if you don't apply it. Because here's the truth. The financial system is not built for your success. It's built for profit. Banks profit when you carry debt. Investment firms profit when you trade frequently. Insurance companies profit when you overinsure. The government profits when you overpay taxes. And all of them have convinced you that complexity equals expertise, that you need a financial advisor, a tax preparer, a wealth manager, and maybe you do. But most of what they're selling, you can do yourself with a spreadsheet, a calculator, and a few hours of focus. The reason most people don't is not because it's hard. It's because they've been conditioned to believe they can't. That money is mysterious. That investing is dangerous. That financial planning is something you outsource. But it's not. You can understand a tax return. You can read a brokerage statement. You can calculate compound interest. You just have to try. And the moment you do, The moment you stop trusting the system blindly, everything changes because suddenly you see the game, the fees that chip away at your returns, the loans that trap you in perpetual payments, the advice that benefits them more than you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's the final rule. Financial literacy is not optional. It's self-defense, and the only person who will truly protect your money is you. So let's go back to the man in Ohio, the one who ran out of money at 67. He didn't fail because he was reckless. He failed because he trusted a rule that didn't account for reality. And the system didn't save him because the system was never designed to. These 12 rules are not guarantees. They're not magic. They won't make you rich overnight, but they will force you to see money differently, not as something that happens to you, but as something you control, and in a world designed to extract wealth from you slowly, quietly, relentlessly. That might be the most dangerous idea of all. The question is, will you ignore it, or will you act?